Music Multiverse listeners, welcome to Beyond Your Radio. I'm your close Canuck music loving host, Mark Kuligowski. Welcome to another Albums from the Leaf show. So what is Albums from the Leaf? This is the show where we expose some great Canadian albums, one per panelist every other week, featuring those super known, totally unknown band, musicians, doesn't matter the genre, doesn't matter the style, whether they're famous, infamous, posthumous. I assure you there are all kinds of glorious, entertaining, heartfelt recordings from Wreck Beach to the 100th Meridian to the Cliffs of Buccalo. Although I probably butchered that name, actually. I'm not Canadian. I'm a poser, eh? I've been to 3 Canadian parties, 2 roadside attractions, and a church in Scarborough. But that's a story for another day. What it boils down to is Canada makes great music, and you might have missed a lot of it, or you might have not realized that the person was Canadian. So you watch this show, you might be surprised who's actually Canadian. But none of us on this panel are going to surprise you by being Canadian. Tonight with me, the Grateful Dude and Jeff Young. Howdy, gentlemen.
Hey.
Hey.
So, we'll start with the Grateful Dude and find out what Canadian album has been in his ear
For about a while now. The band in question is a Canadian band formed in 2005. Mr. Mark did one of their other albums the other week, and I said, oh my God, they're good. He wouldn't let me do that album, so I went back and listened to a few of theirs, and I am tonight doing Mended with Gold by the Rural Alberta Advantage.
Very nice.
These guys are a Canadian group, which the genre on Apple calls them indie rock. I'm gonna have to even use something I don't use very much, but I would call this folk. Very, very much folk. You know, it's very homey, very easy to listen to. I've listened to 3 albums partially, this album full, and the other one Mark did the other night I listened to full. They're really good. I really like them. Their instrumental ship is fabulous. Their choice of songs is amazing. Mark, I don't know this. I couldn't find it. The albums, the songs on this album, are they all theirs?
Yes.
I thought so, but I couldn't find any positive one way or another. What I really liked about this is a couple really good songs of this album. On the Rocks is fabulous. This City I really like. I've listened to Vulcan AB now 3 times in a row because it's a very mesmerizing song. I really like it. You guys have never heard it out there, and up till a couple of weeks ago I've never heard of the band either. But they've been around for a while now, and they're awfully. Matter of fact, they have a huge concerts right now as we speak, all over Canada and San Diego and a bunch of other weird spots. Obviously, they're doing some time for tours. Hoping they're going to get to New York, but they're not going to make New York, and they won't let Mark in Canada. So.
Because he bought all their
Scary proposition. Let me into Canada again.
They want to let somebody else buy some albums.
Yeah. Anyway, so that's it. I mean, great band. I couldn't say enough about them. I'm going to keep listening to them. And for those who out there who've never heard of the Rural Alberta Advantage, should definitely listen to a couple of their songs. It's very easy listening. It's great for doing the dishes by.
That's his rating. Doing the dishes, mowing the lawn, getting shit done.
That's it, baby. That's what I use music for. Getting shit done.
Yeah, they're folk. They've got the rock. They kind of have a, they have their own sound, and of course, lyrically speaking, they do, they are Canadian, and a lot of the songs have a connection to somewhere in Canada or some event in Canada, especially their latest album, The Rise and the Fall, which speaks of certain things that happened in that area. Now, just so people are aware, the rural Alberta advantage, Alberta is kind of the energy capital of Canada. So that's kind of a big thing with them. So why, and probably some of where their name is coming from. So anyway, yeah, good pick. Yeah, I'm sorry I had to tell you that, do a different album.
You're just no fun. I tell you, sometimes you can be such a bitch.
Yes,
So.
I can. All right. So from the rural Alberta, Providence to wherever Jeff Young is taking us.
I'm in my living room, and
Oh,
I was trying to figure out, like, you and I listen to a lot of Canadian bands. Anyone who would ever watch this from the U.S., we could, off the top of our head, name 20 bands they really never heard. But so I'm just like, I decided last time I picked one of my favorite albums, which was Lily. This time I figured, what was like the first Canadian album I really listened to a lot? It's Moving Pictures by Rush. And one of those things that me and even my friends listen to, on the school bus and the ride to work. We used to always bring like a boombox, and we'd bring cassette tapes, and we'd listen to something on the way to school, on the way back from school. And this was one of those. This is really my introduction into Rush. I didn't have all the earlier stuff. I didn't know them yet, and it was their 8th studio album. And so after touring to support the previous album, Permanent Waves, this band started to write and record new material with a more radio-friendly sound. And it featured some tighter, shorter structures compared to the earlier albums. It was their most, I guess, critically successful U.S. album. It was number 1 in Canada, number 3 in the U.S., number 3 in the U.K. It's their highest-selling album in the U.S. The singles released were Limelight, Tom Sawyer, Vital Signs, and their instrumental, which is YYZ, was nominated for a Grammy Award for Best Rock Instrumental. So what happened was the band, I read, they had basically their manager planned out a 2-year plan for them, and it included making an addition. The next album they were going to do was going to be a live album, but they were having a lot of success. They thought writing and coming up with ideas. They got their manager to change his mind, and they scrapped all those plans to go ahead and start recording a new album. Before they went into the studio to record this album, they actually joined a fellow Canadian rock artist, Max Webster, to play on Battlescar for a track on their album called Universal Juveniles in 1980. And during the sessions, one of their lyricists brought a song to them and said, "Hey, this would be good for you. Maybe not so much for us." And that actually turned into Tom Sawyer, which is the opening track on Moving Pictures. And Geddy Lee said that Tom Sawyer almost didn't even make the album, even though it's like their most popular song probably by far, because they had like the most difficult time actually finishing the song for some reason. I don't know why, but they also had, during the recording, technical difficulties with a computer that was mixing the tracks. So they decided to manually operate the mixing desk with each member handling their own set of faders. But they said it took a little longer, but they actually liked it more than what they were doing because it wasn't working. Song Red Barchetta was an idea inspired from a short story called Nice Morning Drive. And the title came after just their idea of naming after the Ferrari 166 WM Barchetta.
I didn't know that.
Most people who travel know YYZ is the 3-letter code for the airport at Toronto Pearson International. The rhythm of this song is of that letters, YYZ, the YYZ Morse code. That's the rhythm of the song.
Okay, cool.
It kind of they kind of stem from their previous instrumental, La Via Strangiato, which is the 9-minute instrumental on Hemispheres, and they wanted to do something similar to that, but not as long. And then the lyrics for Limelight were more of an autobiographical. It was based on Neil Peart's own dissatisfaction with, becoming famous and the intrusion on his privacy. And then the other song, The Camera Eye, it's a two-part track with sections unofficially titled New York and London, because I guess the ideas came while he was in New York and while he was in London. And it was the final song the band included on the studio album. It was over 10 minutes long. Again, that was like more frequent for the previous albums, not so much after that. The opening of the song features an audio of bustling New York City from the Richard Donner film Superman in 1978 with Christopher Reeve. You can hear them say in the beginning that this is it, Mac. How about a tomato and fresh fruit? And just street talk, stuff you as you're walking by, which I did not. And then one song I really think is really cool called Witch Hunt. I think it's the last song, maybe one second to the last song. It opens with faint voices, which were recorded actually in the driveway of one of the studio in sub-zero temperatures, where the band was out, just shouting in humorous way while they were drinking scotch. And the tracks were overdubbed multiple times until it sounded like a vigilante mob. It's not really discernible unless you really hear. I never took the time to actually try hear what they were saying. I just thought it was part of the motif of the witch hunt theme. But Witch Hunt was actually part of what they call the Fear series of songs, which included four songs: that The Weapon from Signals in '82, The Enemy Within from Grace Under Pressure in '84, and Freeze from Vapor Trails in 2002. They actually went in reverse chronological order, except the last one, which is the last of the four, which I didn't even really ever notice that. So Vital Signs was the last song the band wrote. It actually has kind of a more of a distinct reggae flavor, and reggae influences in Rush's music were kind of, first heard a little bit on Permanent Waves is what I was reading, and then would later be heard more extensively on their next two albums. I don't really think of Rush and reggae, but they do have some of those tones in some of their songs where you think, oh yeah, that sounds like reggae, but then you don't really think about it after that.
It's not as demonstrative as like the Police, right? It doesn't have that.
I always liked the cover of the album.
Yeah.
Most people who would look at it go, oh, that's humorous, because they're actually moving pictures. But the cover was designed for an estimated cost of $9,500 to produce. And Anthem Records refused to cover the entire bill, so the band had to pay for whatever they wouldn't cover. I don't know how much that was, but
wow.
But that's fine, because the previous tour was the first tour they ever made. They finally got profitable on. So the album cover is actually a triple entendre. So the cover depicts movers who are carrying pictures. On the side of the cover, people are shown crying because the pictures are so emotionally moving. Finally, on the back cover of the album is a film crew making a motion picture of the front cover.
I wonder if that was part of the idea that isn't that Uma Guma, the Pink Floyd one, is there's a picture inside a picture inside a picture. I wonder if that kind of inspired that kind of thing.
The pictures that are actually being moved are the band's Starman logo, which is featured on the reverse cover of 2112. One of the dogs playing poker paintings entitled A Friend in Need, and a painting that shows Joan of Arc being burned at the stake. Not sure why they picked those, but
for measure, yeah.
But yeah, this band, it was even back when I was like in grade school listening to this band, it's like a lot of people either liked them or they hated them. There was really not much of an in between. There's probably a little more in between now, just because people listen to songs and not so much albums anymore. But just
it all.
Obviously it's got a lot of American popularity too, but as far as going back to Canada, I just wanted to pick the one that really was the first one that I just really got into and listened to this day.
Well, there's when you do these things, people go, that some people say, well, I'm just going to buy the greatest hits. In some instances of some bands, that's okay. All right. But nowhere near right with them. Just not. There's so many deep tracks. There's so much going on. There's so much great music and progressive development in their music from start to finish, from year to year. It's impossible to say let's just put a greatest hits together, and you'd have the best. Even there are some bands that you could maybe do that with, but I just with them, I rediscover things all the time, right? Just with them. Yeah, I mean, I was with somebody a couple weeks ago, and they were talking about Rush, and I was at the record store, and the Clockwork Angels. The guy's like, I don't know why people poo-poo that record. He goes, I think it's in the top 5 they've ever made. And I was like, I think it's ridiculously good. It's if that was the way to go out, that was the way to go out. It was heavy progressive. It was leaving no holds barred. It was fantastic. But you gotta listen.
Yeah, I've known several people who told me, never not a big fan of Rush, but I went with my buddy to see them live. They were amazing.
Yeah. Again, same thing with me. I knew who they were. I guess it was just not in my wheelhouse at that time. Progressive rock was not. I mean, don't get me wrong, I was into Genesis, but Genesis and Rush are two different types of progressive rock.
Oh, not even close.
Right? And Geddy Lee's voice I don't know what it was at that point. Wasn't for me at that point. And then Sue, we go see Roll the Bones, and I'm like, holy crap.
Yeah, I was with you guys.
Yeah, that's right. You were So yeah, I'm okay. So trying to think, since you did this, right? What was my first Canadian album that I had? And I'm going to say, and this may be incorrect. What was yours?
Paul Anka.
Yours was Paul Anka.
No, yours
That's
was.
a good one.
Mine was not Paul Anka. My first concert was Engelbert Humperdinck, which is kind of, not in which you would think.
We're really talking.
But I went against my will.
Mine too.
Your first one, I'm gonna guess, is gotta be like probably before I even met you. Like you're probably talking like, is it early Bryan Adams or Richard Marx or something?
Okay, so Richard Marx is not Canadian, so he's out, right? But
yeah.
Bryan Adams would be my first guess. It would have to be. I'm pretty sure it would have to be Bryan Adams. And maybe a close second in that, like right behind it, would probably be Gowan. That would be my guess. Yep.
My first concert band was the New Christie Minstrels. So
that sounds like a tampon. What who's that? Who is that? I don't.
Then after the show, look them up. I'm serious.
Okay. All right. I thought maybe there's a good story behind that.
I went kicking and screaming.
Oh, okay.
All the way to Hawaii.
Yeah. All right. Well, so I'm going to be the first person to talk about a live album. So the band was Red Rider, formed probably 1975, but around 1970, that's a Canadian rock band that is strictly popular Canadian at that point. In 1978, they got a chance because of their manager, Capitol Records, contacted them and said, you've got to see if you can get this guy, Tom Cochrane. So Tom Cochrane meets up with the band in London, Ontario to rehearse with them, and the rest is history, usually Canadian history. But just so you're aware, and this happens quite a bit, is people will hear a song called Lunatic Fringe. They really don't know who the band is, but that's Tom Cochrane and Red Rider. Also other songs of that nature. So that have popularity and have been played on, I don't know, television shows like Miami Vice. So I'm going to the album, which is called The Symphony Sessions. And obviously it's a beautiful cover because it's got the guitar and like a classical arrangement. They played this with the Edmonton Symphony Orchestra. This was their last album.
What year is this?
Pardon?
What year is this?
89, I want to say.
Oh man, okay, that's pretty old for a symphony.
Yep. Yeah. So, yeah, 1989. So these are the songs, and what's great about this is the first time that I experienced a rock album or a rock band playing with a symphony orchestra. And when it's done right, and I know the difference now because of all the different versions I've heard of things, the orchestra does not start immediately. The orchestra comes in later in the album, in the songs. They don't start right away, but it's Light in the Tunnel, Human Race, Can't Turn Back, Napoleon Sheds His Skin, White Hot, and the album, a song that you've probably heard out there in radio waves and stuff is Big League, which is a Canadian rock song by Tom Cochrane and Red Ryder about a young man who's going to play in the NHL. And unfortunately, he dies in a car crash and never gets to the big league. Now, other shows have used it because it doesn't talk about hockey in generality. It says out at the school, back on ice. But you really, if you're not listening, it doesn't matter. It can be any big league, right? So it's been played there. Calling America, Avenue A, which is a beautiful track. Bird on a Wire, which is not their song. That's oh, come on, who sings Bird on a Wire? Is it that's terrible, Mark. Come on, Bird on a Wire. Like a drunk in a midnight choir. Is it the guy who sings Hallelujah? Maybe? I whatever. The Case of the Olds, right? Getting my brain down.
Edited in later.
Yeah. Boy Inside the Man, and then Lunatic Fringe. Good Times.
Leonard Cohen, right?
Leonard Cohen. See, I was right. Leonard Cohen. Good Times, and The Next Life, which was a studio track added at the end. Now, not a fan of that idea, but it was the last song that they had put together. So, when I heard this in 1989, you and I and Sue were, I think, in Canada. We had HMV, and Tom Cochrane was pretty big at that time because Life is a Highway was coming down the stretch there, and he had already released a record prior that did pretty well. I can't think of the title of it, but I remember picking this up, not really knowing what to expect, and just being blown away. This is 70 minutes, and even it's funny, the CD cassette release, 13 tracks. That was kind of unheard of in that realm. It's hard to get things on that size at that point in 89, but they pulled it off. So Tom Cochrane is vocal guitar, Ken Greer plays guitar, John Webster's keyboards, Ken Spider Senave is bass, Randall Coryell played drums, and Peter Mueller was guitar as well. The Edmonton Symphony Orchestra, and I can honestly say this is an album that I go back to quite a bit because it's got that nostalgia to it. And
Jeff,
Tom Cochrane.
Very well.
Say again?
I was asking Jeff if he knows this band or this album very well.
No. Yeah, I consider Tom Cochrane's Life is a Highway, or not Life is a Highway. What is it called? Oh wow, I'm having a hard time tonight.
Yeah. So drugs, you forgot.
Brave New World, Brave and Crazy, Brave New World. Terrible, Mark. Terrible. Let me just back out of that one and make sure I got the albums right. Mad World. From 1991. So 2 years later, he had an album that was competing for the best album in Canada with Bryan Adams, who the two are kind of simpatico in their style and delivery. That was the quintessential record for me. I hold that in the top 50 albums that I have in my collection that I listen to more often than most. His songwriting is ridiculously good, very charismatic, very deep, and it connects with anything and everybody. So sort of beautiful. But they never really broke anywhere but Canada. That was it. Kind of where they stayed. And Tom Cochrane's an icon in Canada in many things. I don't know what the rest of Red Ryder's doing at this time, but if you love symphony orchestra, like if you like the Metallica series, Obviously, this is not metal, but this is a really well-produced record and shows you the power when a symphony starts because it comes in and the whole thing changes at that point. So that's mine, Tom Cochrane and Red Riders, the Symphony Sessions from 1989.
Good.
Gentlemen, I want to thank you for doing this tonight. From Albums from the Leaf, we'll be back in week after next with another episode. We love the subscription people. We'd like to see more of it. Let's double that. Let's see if we can get to 100. So click the subscribe button. If you like us, hit the like button. If you don't like us, hit the like button. If you don't care, hit the like button. Just hit the like button. Just hit it. What are you gonna do? It's come on. It's not that hard. Although technically I don't think I'm doing it, so that's shame on me, right? Should like my own stuff. Any comments we'd love to hear. What's your album this week that you've been listening to, Canadian? I do not know them all. Jeff doesn't know them all. I'm always open to new ones. There's been a couple of bangers this year out of Vancouver and Winnipeg, and really looking forward to other people showcasing what they've heard. So we're on the web at www.beyondyourradio.com, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. We'll be, let's see, we're here for Thursday. We got next week is the final panelist favorites 2020. It'll be the last the decades. After that, it's going to get a little bit more crazy and fun.
Let's do 2030.
Yes, that's in advance. What are you listening to? Anyway, thank you for watching, and as always, happy listening.